Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if you're new here. Today, we're talking about the importance of thinking about yourself in the context of your life. So, yourself, your circumstances, your situations, your growth, your progress, your goals, all of that in the context of your specific life. So, most of us have probably heard the phrase, comparison is the thief of joy. So this is true in every way, right? And not just thinking about other people or things outside of us, but comparing ourselves to ourselves and thinking about, well, I should be farther along, or this should be easier for me, or I should have reached this thing or done this thing, whatever it is, right? But so this comparison against ourselves, but also other people. So often we compare ourselves to other people or to versions of ourselves that's in a totally different context, or something that would be like, well, yeah, that could happen for you if you had a totally different life than what you have now, right? It kind of dismisses or doesn't look at the context of our current circumstances, when actually the result of everything in our life, including our progress, our growth, our ability to do things, our own specific soul, the lessons we're here for, all of those are a result of like our unique life and our unique energy and our unique growing up and our circumstances and whatever else you believe in, right? And so when we compare these things, it's not fair to our current circumstances. And if we dismiss those and act like those aren't a factor of these things, and that's the reason why people change at different speeds, or they have different goals, or they, can become a different person or be change or want different things, or, all these things are going on. But when we look at this comparison, we forget all of that and we just try to make it be comparing this and this, right? So one example, right, really quickly, if you're learning a new skill, you can't compare yourself to a skill that you've mastered and been doing your whole life, right? So if you're trying to learn a new language, for example, you can't compare yourself to the language that you've been speaking since you've been born. Obviously, there's going to be a learning curve there, but a lot of us are like, oh no, this is so hard and I can't believe I didn't get this, and whatever. Right. So there is a learning curve with these things, but sometimes we expect ourselves to just automatically be at this more advanced level, which when we take a step back and see the bigger picture, we see, well, that's not actually possible, right? There's going to be things that you don't know. There's going to be things that are less practiced, definitely. And so it's important for you to give yourself grace and compassion. And again, kind of pulling the veil back, stepping back a little bit and looking like, okay, this is my life and my circumstance. And if this is a skill or a goal or something that, I should be as good at in this area of my life as I am with this thing that I've been doing for however long, right? When we stop and take a second to think about that, it's like, okay, that's actually, not applicable or helpful for the situation. And so, and even looking at like other people's patterns of things, right? If you're an addict or someone who struggles with drug and alcohol use, I mean, anything you're addicted to, shopping, gaming, smoking, anything, right? Quitting drinking and doing drugs, or quitting that thing, is going to be different for you than someone who's not, right? Someone who can just do dry January or just take a month off from using, or could take it or leave it. They're going to have a totally different process than for you, who has to stop completely and look at that. Right? If you're trying to break into an industry, if you're trying to, it could be, entertainment industry, professional industry, whatever field you want to break into, you're going to have if you have no contacts in that, you're going to have a totally different experience of that than someone who has those connections, someone who comes from a family of people who've done that, someone who has the financial resources to be able to break into that in that way, right? So looking at, well, why is this so hard for me? Why can't I get my foot in the door? When it's like, okay, who are you comparing yourself to? These people who have all this access and all these things contributing to what they're able to do, versus you might not have had those same circumstances. If you're supporting yourself financially, right, you can't compare yourself to, I mean, you can, but I wouldn't suggest it to someone who is financed by their parents or by an inheritance or by a spouse or by, whatever reason, right? What they can afford with their, due to what they can afford to do with their time and their money might be things that you can't afford to do. And it's not that you're worse than them. It's just, again, looking at what are they looking at with these things. And here's a little life hack. Okay. A lot of people are financed in a way that they're not super public about. So if things look super easy for people, there's probably something going on behind the scenes there. And as a society, we are not very good at talking about money things. So that especially, you kind of want to look up and, just question, how realistic is this thing that I'm saying about what's going on here. Another common example, right? Most of us are bombarded with like unrealistic beauty standards. And so we think, oh, well, look at this picture, look at this, whatever, right? And like what celebrities are not saying is the plastic surgery they're getting, the personal trainer they have, the very specific dietitian they're working with, right? Then these pictures are photoshopped, but we still in our minds are like, I can look like that, I can do that, I can, whatever, without all of these things going on. So we're just fed all these lies, but we aren't given any context for what it actually took to get there and do that. So just remembering like, okay, if I can remember these things in this context and it takes these specific way to get there, maybe I can alleviate some of that judgment and shame I'm feeling about myself for these things. Okay, but so the examples are endless. My point is that, I want to give another money example too, right? So if someone's being financed by their parents or wherever their money is coming from, right? They might have the time to, I can take a week off from work and work on my art or work on my this or work on my whatever, right? Versus someone who, if you are financing yourself, you don't have that luxury usually. And so it's like, okay, well, this person could create a whole album, or they could go on vacation for 2 weeks, or they could whatever, because they don't need to be using their time to make money. Whereas if you don't do that, then, whatever. Again, take it how it resonates, see what example is coming up for you. Basically, where do you compare yourself the hardest? Where do you not give yourself grace? Any and all of that, right? But so as I was saying before, the examples are endless. The point is, when you switch the framework to accurately reflect your life and your journey and your circumstances, you're going to automatically like feel relief. Hopefully, I mean, that's, accepting that relief is there. But when you change that framework, right, the point is to give yourself grace and compassion and understanding and patience, and knowing that, people who have these other situations and circumstances going on, right, we don't not do things because we're, it's a lot of times we're mean to ourselves for why something isn't happening or why we're not doing something, when again, there's usually an accentuating circumstance going on. Now, sometimes we just do need to motivate ourselves and be like, okay, I need to be more disciplined with this, I need to be doing that, I need to whatever, right? But even the resistance to be disciplined, there's probably something going on in there, right? Like I'm scared of abandonment, so I'm scared to get into a relationship because it might fail, right? So I'm not open to dating at all, right? Whereas someone who maybe doesn't have their heart broken or doesn't have past things or has healed and worked through that, they might be more open in that way. So there's always things to look at about why we're doing things. The baseline is that we are always trying to protect ourselves. We're always trying to, even if it doesn't make sense logically, it's an attempt at protection. And so we all have a unique set of circumstances. We all have a unique path. And so when we can understand that and understand that we're all doing the best we can, you don't need to beat yourself up about it. You don't need to be mean to yourself. You don't need to should all over yourself, right? As the saying goes, just remember the context, remember your uniqueness, remember you're doing the best you can with what you're given. And you can't control everything also. You also could be doing everything right, but we can't control the outcome. We can just control ourselves, our response, how we're showing up, what's going on with that. But just remembering, when we think about ourselves in the context of our own life, that usually takes away some of the judgment, because we're able to be like, oh, okay, right, this thing's a little bit harder for me because I don't have this, and this going on. Whereas I've compared myself to all these people who do have these other things going on that maybe I'm not even aware of, right? Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.